Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take the complex research you send us and, well, we dive deep to pull out what really matters.
Glad to be here.
Today we're tackling something really fascinating, almost a paradox, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We're looking at Gen Z born roughly 97 to 2012.
Right, a generation that, seems defined by financial worry. Huge student debt, crazy housing costs.
Exactly. But here's the twist. They're actively choosing things like peace of mind over just chasing the highest salary. It's kind of counterintuitive.
It really is. I mean, we're talking about millennials and Gen Z being collectively the most indebted generations ever. They've seen so much economic instability.
And yet, surveys show, get this, 64% of Gen Z prioritize that peace of mind over building wealth, even though at the same time, about half list their long-term financial future as a top stressor.
That's the core tension we want to unpack today. Peace over wealth. What does that actually look like?
Well, our mission, I guess, is to explore how both these generations, Gen Z and Millennials, are sort of rewriting the rules.
Yeah, how they approach work, spending, saving, and these new lifestyle trends we're hearing about, like micro-retirement or minimalist luxury. What's really going on?
Let's dive in.
Okay, so for decades, the script was pretty clear, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Climb the ladder, work crazy hours in your 20s and 30s.
Sacrifice everything, basically, for that comfortable retirement way down the line.
And Gen Z seems to have looked at that whole model and just said, nope, not for us.
We're seeing this huge shift, aren't we, towards, taking breaks and sometimes even deliberately choosing jobs that are, less demanding.
That brings us straight to this idea of micro-retirements.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating counter-trend.
Micro-retirements. Explain that. It sounds nice.
It does. Instead of that single big retirement at 65 or 70, they're taking significant breaks between jobs, maybe 6 months, maybe a year.
While they're young.
Exactly. While they're young, healthy, able to travel, pursue hobbies, maybe work on a passion project, or just recharge.
You know, that phrase, while they are young and physically capable, really stands out. It feels like a direct response to seeing older generations burn out.
I think it is. They saw millennials, Gen X, working themselves to the bone, maybe for a nice apartment they were never actually in.
Right. So normalizing these career pauses, it's really about putting mental health and actual fulfillment ahead of just, sticking with one company for 40 years.
And the modern job market kind of enables this, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, the fear of falling behind, of losing career momentum. It's still there, maybe, but it's less intense than it used to be.
Because of remote work and project-based stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, job searching is just easier with technology now, so they feel more confident they can jump back in when they need to when the micro-retirement fund runs low.
The whole relationship with work feels more transactional.
It does, and Gen Z is applying that transactional view to their time off, too.
Okay, but this idea of opting out of the constant grind,
Yeah.
it's led to some charged language, hasn't it? Like the lazy girl job thing.
Oh, yeah, that term definitely got attention. It's provocative.
What does it actually mean, though, beyond the headline?
Fundamentally, it's slang. Usually refers to a white-collar job, often office-based, that pays decently well but isn't overly demanding. It allows someone to basically quiet quit.
Meaning, do what's required, meet expectations, but don't go above and beyond. No extra projects, no late nights unless absolutely necessary.
Precisely. Just doing the job you're paid for and then logging off.
Now, I know that term gets a lot of flack. People hear lazy and think, entitled, unmotivated.
And that criticism exists, for sure. But when you dig into where it came from, the original intent seems different. It was almost framed as a kind of protest.
A protest against what? Toxic workplaces.
Exactly. Against those impossible expectations, the 60-hour weeks disguised as 40-hour jobs, the constant pressure to be on. It was described as a marketing gimmick to highlight that burnout culture.
So less about actually being lazy and more about prioritizing work-life balance, protecting your mental health.
That seems to be the core idea for many people using the term. Choosing a job that lets you have a life outside of work, pursue other interests, avoid complete exhaustion, maybe a 9-to-5 so you can have that side hustle, or just relax.
That makes more sense than just celebrating laziness. But the critique is still there, right?
Oh, definitely. Critics argue, well, if you're just doing the bare minimum, you'll be the first replaced by AI.
Or that it's a kind of defeatist attitude, like they don't even believe climbing the ladder is possible anymore, so why bother trying?
That's a valid debate, and it gets even more complex when you contrast it with what's happening at the other end of the age spectrum.
You mean older workers?
Yeah, this age reversal paradox. While some Gen Z are taking breaks, we're seeing the great retiree return.
Retirees coming back to work. Why?
Well, estimates suggest around 13% of current retirees are planning to re-enter the workforce next year. And for nearly 70% of them,
I mean, yes.
money. Bingo! Rising cost of living is forcing them back, at least part-time. Financial pressure is the main driver.
Wow. So employers are facing this weird situation.
Totally. You've got, say, a 25-year-old asking for a 6-month sabbatical for personal growth and a 68-year-old applying for a part-time gig because their pension isn't covering groceries.
The younger generation wants time and balance. The older generation needs income. That puts huge pressure on companies to adapt.
It really does. They need to figure out flexible options, part-time roles, project work, maybe remote setups that can accommodate both the boomers looking for stability and purpose and the Gen Zers looking for flexibility and experience between those micro-retirements.
Okay, so if Gen Z is pausing careers, maybe taking lower stress jobs, how are they actually managing financially? This is where it gets tricky, right?
This is where the data really starts to throw curveballs. Because remember, they value peace, but they're also stressed about money and dealing with debt.
So how do their saving habits stack up against, say, millennials?
Well, depends who you ask, honestly. One study we looked at suggested millennials are actually saving a higher percentage of their income. Yeah, this study gave millennials a mean savings score of 2.83, while Gen Z was down at 2.09. So, based on that, millennials look like better savers.
But I feel like I saw something else. Something that said the opposite.
You probably did. Because another big study found that Gen Z consumers save around 36% of their monthly income, which, if true, would put them way ahead of other generations.
36%. That's huge. How can both be true? One says less, one says way more.
It's likely down to methodology and who exactly they're surveying. The first study might be averaging across all income levels, where established millennials pull the average up.
Right.
The second study showing that massive 36%, maybe it's looking more at median earners or perhaps Gen Zers who are still living at home.
Oh, okay. Fewer expenses so they can save a bigger chunk of whatever they earn.
Exactly. It highlights the complexity. They might be saving aggressively when they can, but their overall financial footing isn't as solid yet.
And that lack of solidity really shows up in emergency funds, doesn't it?
That's the crucial difference, yes. When you look at having any emergency savings, about 34% of Gen Z have absolutely nothing set aside. Zero.
Compared to millennials.
About 28% for millennials. So, still a significant number, but Gen Z is worse off.
And the gold standard, like 6 months of expenses saved?
That gap is even wider. Only 10% of Gen Z hit that mark, whereas it's 25% for millennials. So a quarter of millennials have that safety net, but only 1 in 10 Gen Zers do.
So they're trying, maybe saving high percentages when possible, but starting from behind, less stable overall.
That seems to be the picture. Intense pressure, trying to build a buffer, but it's tough.
Okay, but then, if they value peace and are trying to save, why does some data suggest Gen Z spends more on material goods than experience-focused millennials? Isn't that contradictory?
It seems like it at first glance, but it might actually point to a different kind of financial thinking.
Oh, so?
Well, millennials are often painted as valuing experiences, travel, dining out, and they'll pay more for things like great customer service or sustainable brands. About 75% say they would.
Right.
Gen Z, on the other hand, seems more focused on value for money. They might buy more goods, yes, but they're incredibly price conscious. Remember that stat 62% are willing to swap brands or items just to get a lower price. They're bargain hunters.
So it's not necessarily mindless consumerism, it's strategic purchasing of goods.
Potentially. It's about getting the most tangible stuff for their limited dollars, perhaps, rather than splurging on an expensive, fleeting experience.
And this practical, maybe slightly wary approach extends to investing too, right? They got burned.
Oh, definitely. They dove into the hype, crypto, NFTs, meme stocks, and a huge number, 64%, reported experiencing losses from these volatile investments.
Ouch, so what's the reaction?
A pivot, a flight to perceived safety. They're now looking to diversify, and you see growing interest in things considered more stable, like gold.
Gold, like actual gold.
Yeah, because it has that long history of holding value, especially when markets feel chaotic or unpredictable, like a casino, as you said. It feels safer after the roller coaster they just rode.
Okay, so they're trying to save, investing more cautiously. Where's the money for this coming from? They must be cutting back somewhere.
Aggressively. The cutbacks are significant. We're talking 67% cutting back on long-haul travel.
Wow, 2/3 cutting international trips.
Yeah, And 39% cutting back on alcohol. That's partly the sober, curious movement, but likely financial too. And 35% cutting back on fast fashion.
Okay, that cutback on fast fashion ties into the next big theme, doesn't it, of this broader lifestyle shift?
Exactly. Those cuts aren't just about saving pennies. They link directly to how Gen Z is crafting a whole different way of living. It's like a quiet rebellion against that old more is more consumer culture.
Yeah.
Trading the hustle for slow.
Yeah, the slow living movement and this idea of minimalist luxury. What does that mean in practice?
It's about rejecting clutter and disposable culture. Instead of buying 10 cheap, trendy things, they'll buy one, maybe two,
Hmm.
really high-quality, purposeful items.
Fewer but better.
Precisely. Think buying one perfect, maybe expensive white t-shirt that's made ethically and will last for years, instead of 8 cheap ones that fall apart after a few washes.
So it's not about being broke, necessarily.
Right.
It might even cost more upfront.
Often, yes. The economics of enough can require a bigger initial investment. But the idea is long-term value, less waste, less decision fatigue, less stuff crowding your space in your mind.
And that desire for less clutter shows up in their living spaces too.
Absolutely. You hear descriptions like small, walkable apartments, they call them Zen caves sometimes, decorated very intentionally, often in that warm minimalism style.
The physical space mirrors the mental space they're trying to create. Curated, calm, not overwhelming.
Exactly. And they'll pay more for items if they align with their values, ethical production, sustainable materials. It's intentional consumption. Every item has to earn its place.
And this intentionality, this curation, it goes way beyond physical stuff, doesn't it? It's hitting their digital lives too.
Big time. It's not just about work-life balance anymore, it's about actively fighting digital overload. We're seeing real digital detox efforts.
Like what? Just deleting apps.
That, yes, but also consciously unfollowing accounts that trigger anxiety or comparison, setting firm boundaries around screen time, even things like buying physical alarm clocks to get phones out of a bedroom entirely.
Wow. Bringing back the alarm clock. That's a statement.
It is. It's about reclaiming focus and avoiding that constant stream of information and comparison. It's curating a slower, more mindful way of engaging with the world, both online and off.
In this whole lifestyle, the need for breaks, the focus on value, the minimalist tendencies, the digital boundaries, it all feeds back into what they expect from work, right?
Directly. That desire for flexibility and control over their time is paramount. One study looking at Indian Gen Z, for example, found only 16% wanted a traditional 9 to 5, full stop.
Only 16%. What did the others want?
A massive 43% preferred a full-time job plus a side hustle. They want that blend in the security of a main job, but the freedom and passion outlet of something on the side. It supports that whole slow living, intentional ethos.
Okay, so let's try and tie this all together. We've got micro-retirements, complex saving habits, minimalist luxury, slow living. What's the big picture? What's the new definition of success emerging here?
I think the fundamental takeaway is that Gen Z is writing a new equation for success. It's not just about the bottom line anymore.
Right.
Fulfillment, mental peace, alignment with values, these things are weighing just as heavily, maybe more heavily for some than purely financial accumulation. Remember, 68% value balance over just salary.
So having it all is changing meaning.
Completely. It's shifting from wanting abundance in the material sense to wanting enough. Enough time, enough mental space, enough resources to live comfortably and according to your principles. In a world that constantly screams more, saying I have enough is actually pretty radical.
That leaves us with a really potent question for you, the listener, to think about. We heard this stat: almost 3/4 of people feel their generation's spending is shaped more by external forces, like the economy or social trends, than by their own personal values.
Yeah, 73.5%. That's huge.
So considering Gen Z is facing such significant economic headwinds, debt, uncertainty, how much of this search for peace of mind, this rejection of the traditional hustle, is truly a free, conscious choice based on new values, and how much might just be a pragmatic, maybe even necessary adaptation to a world where the old promises of wealth accumulation feel, well, out of reach anyway.
Is it a chosen philosophy or a coping mechanism? Or maybe a bit of both?
Something to definitely mull over. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.